When the world's richest man discovers his ex-wife is dying of cancer, he faces an impossible choice. Let pride keep them apart, or risk everything to save the woman he never stopped loving. What he does next will shock you and inspire millions around the world. What would you do if someone you once loved was dying, but your help might be the last thing they'd accept? For most people, this would be a painful but simple decision. Pick up the phone. Offer support. Hope for the best. But Elon Musk isn't most people. When a family doctor calls with devastating news about his ex-wife Justine's cancer diagnosis, Elon doesn't just write a check or send flowers. Instead, he does something so extraordinary, so elaborate, and so risky that it will either save her life or destroy what little relationship they have left. This is the true story of how a bitter divorce became the greatest love story of our time. How a tech billionaire's desperate gamble sparked a medical revolution, and how one phone call changed not just 2 lives but thousands of lives around the world. The call that started it all came on a rainy Tuesday morning in Texas. The rain hammered against the massive windows of Starbase like tiny bullets. Elon Musk stood in the assembly hall watching his engineers work on the newest Starship rocket. The silver giant rose nearly 400 feet into the air. It looked like something from a science fiction movie. But this was real. This rocket would carry humans to Mars someday. Mr. Musk, the heat shield tiles are ready for testing, called Maria Santos, one of his top engineers. She wore a hard hat and safety glasses. Her voice echoed in the huge building. Elon nodded, but didn't really hear her. His mind was elsewhere today. Something felt wrong, but he couldn't figure out what. He'd felt this way since waking up in his small apartment near the launch site. His phone buzzed in his pocket. The number on the screen made him freeze. Dr. Sarah Chen. He hadn't seen that name pop up in months, maybe years. Dr. Chen used to be the family doctor when he lived in Los Angeles. She took care of his 5 sons when they were little. She knew his whole family, including his first wife, Justine. "Hello?" Elon answered, stepping away from the noise of welding and drilling. "Elon, it's Dr. Chen." Her voice sounded shaky, like she'd been crying. "I'm calling about Justine." The world seemed to stop spinning. Behind him, a wrench fell from an engineer's hand and clanged on the concrete floor. The sound echoed through the building like a gunshot. "What about Justine?" Elon's mouth felt dry. "She's been diagnosed with pancreatic cancer.
Stage 3.
Dr. Chen paused. "She asked me not to tell you, but I thought you should know." Elon's legs felt weak. He grabbed the metal railing next to him to stay standing. Pancreatic cancer. He knew enough about medicine to understand what that meant. It was one of the worst kinds of cancer you could get. "How long has she known?" he asked quietly. 3 weeks. She's been trying to handle it alone." Of course she had. That was Justine. Strong, independent, stubborn Justine. She would try to fight cancer the same way she fought everything else, by herself. Elon closed his eyes and saw her face. Not as she looked now, but as she looked 25 years ago when they first met at Queen's University in Canada. She was studying English literature then, dreaming of writing fantasy novels. He was the weird physics student who wouldn't stop talking about electric cars and space travel. "She thinks I'm crazy," he told his roommate back then. "You are crazy," his roommate had replied. "But she listens to you anyway." Justine had been the only person who listened to his wild ideas without laughing. When he talked about making cars that ran on electricity instead of gas, she asked smart questions. When he dreamed about building rockets to Mars, she helped him think through the problems. "You're going to change the world someday," she told him on their 3rd date. They were walking through the snow in Kingston, Ontario. Her cheeks were red from the cold, and her dark hair was tucked under a green wool hat. "We're gonna change the world," he'd corrected her. Even then, he'd known they were a team. They got married in the year 2000. It was a small wedding, just family and close friends. Justine looked beautiful in a simple white dress. During their vows, she promised to support his dreams, no matter how impossible they seemed. And she did support them. When he started PayPal, she helped him practice his presentations. When he founded SpaceX, she held him when the first 3 rockets exploded, and everyone said he was wasting his money. When Tesla was almost bankrupt, she never told him to give up. But success had changed things between them. As the companies grew bigger, Elon worked longer hours. He slept at the factory. He missed family dinners. He forgot birthdays and anniversaries. Justine felt invisible. She told him so during their last big fight in 2000. "You care more about your rockets than your family," she'd yelled. "I married a man who wanted to change the world. But I didn't know that meant you'd forget about the people who love you." The divorce was ugly. Lawyers and custody battles and hurt feelings. They said terrible things to each other in court. Justine wrote articles calling him a bad husband and father. Elon threw himself even deeper into his work. But through it all, they shared custody of their sons. Griffin and Xavier, the twins. Kai, Saxon, and Damien, the triplets. 5 brilliant, funny, complicated boys who looked like both their parents. "Elon? Are you still there?" Dr. Chen's voice brought him back to the present. "Yes, I'm here. Tell me about the treatment options." That's the problem. She doesn't have insurance that covers experimental treatments. There's a new therapy at MD Anderson Cancer Center in Houston. It's called immunotherapy. They take the patient's own immune cells and teach them to fight cancer better. How much does it cost? $400,000. And there's a waiting list. Elon did quick math in his head. Houston was 4 hours from Austin by car. MD Anderson was one of the best cancer hospitals in the world. Money wasn't the problem. He could write a check for $400,000 without thinking twice. But time might be the problem. How long does she have without treatment? The question came out as a whisper. Maybe 6 months. With the experimental therapy, we don't know. It's new, but it's her best chance. 6 months. Elon thought about all the things that could happen in 6 months. SpaceX had a Mars mission land. Tesla was launching 3 new car models. Neuralink was testing brain implants. But none of that mattered if Justine was dying. "Dr. Chen, does she know you're calling me?" "No. She made me promise not to involve you. She said you have your own life now, your own problems. She doesn't want to be a burden. A burden. The mother of his children, the woman who stood by him when everyone else thought he was crazy, thought she would be a burden." "Thank you for calling," Elon said. "I need to think about this." "Elon, I hope you know I wouldn't have called if I wasn't worried. She's trying to be strong, but she's scared, and she's alone. Alone." That word hit him like a punch to the stomach. Justine had always been surrounded by people, friends, family, readers who loved her books. The fact that she was facing this alone meant she'd pushed everyone away, including him. After Dr. Chen hung up, Elon stood in the middle of the Starbase assembly hall, surrounded by the future he'd built. The rockets that would take humans to Mars, the technology that would make life on other planets possible. His life's work, but right now, none of it mattered. He pulled out his phone and called his assistant. "Cancel everything for the next month," he said. "Everything? Even the NASA meeting? Everything." He didn't call Justine. Not yet. Instead, he made a different call. One that would surprise everyone who thought they knew Elon Musk. Elon walked to his Tesla Model S in the Starbase parking lot. The rain had stopped, but dark clouds still covered the Texas sky. He got into the driver's seat but didn't start the car yet. Instead, he scrolled through his phone contacts until he found the name he was looking for. Dr. James Mitchell. Jim had been Elon's roommate at the University of Pennsylvania 30 years ago. Back then, Jim wanted to a doctor, and Elon wanted to build rockets. They used to stay up all night talking about their dreams. Jim thought Elon was crazy. Elon thought Jim was too serious. Now Jim was one of the top cancer doctors at Memorial Sloan Kettering Hospital in New York, and Alan was the richest man in the world. Life was funny that way. The phone rang twice before Jim answered. "Elon, this is unexpected. Don't you usually communicate through Twitter these days?" "I need a favor, Jim." Elon set the car to autopilot and pulled out of the parking lot. The Tesla drove itself toward the highway while Elon talked. "Can you review a medical case for me? Pancreatic cancer, stage 3. There was a pause. Jim knew Elon well enough to hear the worry in his voice. "Whose case, Elon?" "Someone important to me." "How important?" Elon thought about how to answer. How do you explain a relationship that complicated? Justine wasn't his wife anymore. She wasn't even his friend, really. But she was the mother of his children. She was the person who believed in him before anyone else did. Important enough that I need to know every possible treatment option. Money is no object. Okay, Jim said slowly. Send me the medical records. I'll take a look. There's one more thing. This needs to be completely confidential. No one can know I'm involved. Elon, what are you planning? I'm planning to save someone's life. Can you help me or not? Send me the records. I'll call you back in 2 hours. Elon hung up and called his lawyer next. Then his accountant. Then his private investigator. By the time he reached Houston, he had made 12 phone calls and set a very unusual plan in motion. Meanwhile, 2,000 miles away in Los Angeles, Justine Wilson sat in her small apartment staring at a stack of medical bills. The papers covered her kitchen table like fallen leaves. Each one had a number that made her stomach hurt. $50,000 for the MRI scan that found the cancer. $75,000 for the biopsy that confirmed it. $25,000 for the blood tests that showed how far it had spread. And those were just the tests. The actual treatment would cost 10 times more. Justine was a successful author. Her young adult fantasy novels sold well, especially the Blood Angel series. But selling well for a novelist wasn't the same as being rich. She had a nice apartment, a reliable car, and enough money to take her sons on vacation once a year. She didn't have enough money to fight cancer. Her literary agent, Maria Santos, sat across from her drinking coffee from a mug that said "World's Okayest Agent." We could start a crowdfunding campaign, Maria suggested. Your readers love you. They'd want to help. No, Justine's voice was firm. I'm not going to beg for money on the internet. I have some dignity left. It's not begging, Justine. It's asking for help. There's a difference. Is there? Justine picked up one of the bills and studied it. The numbers seemed to move around on the page like they were alive. I built my whole career on being independent. I left Elon because I was tired of feeling like I needed him for everything. Now I'm supposed to ask strangers for charity? Maria reached across the table and took Justine's hand. They'd been friends for 10 years, ever since Justine's first book was published. Honey, pride won't cure cancer. Justine knew Maria was right, but knowing something and accepting it were different things. She thought about calling Elon. He would help, she knew that much. Despite everything that happened between them, he wouldn't let the mother of his children die because she couldn't afford treatment. But calling Elon would mean admitting that she needed him. It would mean becoming the helpless ex-wife again. And she'd worked too hard to become her own person to go backward now. Let me think about it, Justine said. Maybe there are other options. Maria nodded and gathered up her purse. Just don't wait too long to decide. From what the doctors said, time isn't on your side. After Maria left, Justine sat alone in her apartment. The sun was setting over Los Angeles, painting her living room walls orange and pink. She looked at the framed photos on her bookshelf. Her 5 sons at various ages, her parents, who had died 3 years ago in a car accident. A few pictures of her with other authors at book signings and conferences. No pictures of Elon. She'd put those away after the divorce. But she could still remember what he looked like on their wedding day. How nervous he'd been during his vows. How he'd promised to love her until the stars burn out. The stars were still burning, but their love hadn't lasted nearly as long. Her phone rang, interrupting her thoughts. The caller ID showed a number she didn't recognize. Hello, Ms. Wilson? This is Dr. Rebecca Yates from the Morris Research Institute. I'm calling about your recent cancer diagnosis. Justine sat up straighter. I'm sorry, who did you say you were? Dr. Yates from the Morris Research Institute. We're a private medical foundation that funds experimental cancer treatments. We'd like to discuss covering the cost of your immunotherapy treatment at MD Anderson Cancer Center. Justine's heart started beating faster. I don't understand. I've never heard of your institute. We're a relatively new organization. We select a small number of patients each year who fit our research criteria. Based on your medical profile and personal background, you're an ideal candidate for our program. What's the catch? Dr. Yates laughed softly. No catch, Ms. Wilson. Just good timing and good luck. Are you interested in hearing more? Justine looked around her apartment at the medical bills, at the photos of her sons, at the life she'd built by herself. Someone was offering to save her life, and she didn't even know who they were. Yes, she said. I'm very interested. What she didn't know was that 200 miles away, Elon Musk was sitting in a Houston hotel room, listening to every word of the conversation through a secure phone line. Elon hung up the secure phone and stared out the window of his hotel room. At the Houston Medical Center, 21 hospitals spread across 2.3 square miles. It was the largest medical complex in the world. Somewhere in those buildings, doctors and nurses were saving lives every day. Tomorrow, he would walk into MD Anderson Cancer Center pretending to be someone else. It was the most important performance of his life. He looked at himself in the bathroom mirror. At 52 years old, he was one of the most recognizable faces on Earth. His photo was on magazine covers, news websites, and social media feeds. How was he supposed to hide in plain sight? The answer sat on the hotel bed, a box from a professional makeup artist in Hollywood. Inside were glasses with thick black frames, a fake mustache, temporary hair dye, and something called facial putty that could change the shape of his nose. Elon had hired the same makeup team that worked on Marvel movies. If they could turn actors into superheroes, maybe they could turn a billionaire into a regular person. His phone buzzed with a text from Dr. Mitchell in New York. Reviewed the case. This is bad, Elon. Really bad. The cancer has spread more than the initial report showed. She needs treatment immediately. Elon's hands shook as he typed back. How immediately? Weeks, not months. I'm flying to Houston tomorrow to consult. This Dr. Yates you found is good, but she'll need all the help she can get. Elon set down his phone and walked to the window again. In the distance, he could see the lights of MD Anderson Cancer Center. Justine would arrive there in 2 days. She would check into the hospital believing that a mysterious foundation was paying for her care. She had no idea that her ex-husband was about to become Dr. Edward Morris, medical researcher and philanthropist. The next morning, Elon stood outside MD Anderson, wearing his disguise. The thick glasses made everything slightly blurry. The fake mustache itched. But when he looked at his reflection in the glass doors, he saw a stranger looking back. Dr. Morris? A young woman in a white coat approached him. I'm Dr. Rebecca Yates. Welcome to MD Anderson. Dr. Yates was smaller than Elon had expected, probably in her early 40s with graying hair pulled back in a ponytail. But when she spoke about cancer research, her voice became strong and confident. Thank you for meeting with me, Elon said, trying to make his voice sound different. He spoke more slowly than usual and used a slight accent he'd practiced in the hotel room. The Morris Research Institute is very interested in your immunotherapy work. They walked through the hospital corridors past rooms full of patients. Some were children with bald heads and bright smiles. Others were elderly people surrounded by worried families. Everyone was fighting for their lives. Our CAR T-cell therapy is showing remarkable results, Dr. Yates explained as they entered her laboratory. We take the patient's own immune cells, modify them in our lab to better recognize cancer, then put them back into the patient's body. The lab was filled with high-tech equipment that cost millions of dollars. Scientists in white coats worked at microscopes and computer screens. Elon recognized some of the machines. His companies had built similar technology for other purposes. It's like teaching the immune system to be a better soldier. Dr. Yates continued. Instead of missing the cancer cells, the modified T-cells hunt them down and destroy them. What kind of success rates are you seeing? Elon asked. For pancreatic cancer, about 30% achieve complete remission. That might not sound high, but 5 years ago the number was basically zero. 30%. Not great odds, but infinitely better than the alternative. What do you need to improve those numbers? Elon asked. Dr. Yates laughed, but not in a happy way. Money, better equipment, more researchers. We're doing groundbreaking work on a shoestring budget. If we had unlimited funding, we could probably push that success rate to 50%, maybe higher. How much money are we talking about? $50 million would transform this entire program. We could expand our trials, upgrade our equipment, hire the best researchers in the world. $50 million. Elon spent more than that on Twitter's logo redesign. But he had to be careful. Any large donation from Elon Musk would make headlines. Justine would figure out his involvement immediately. The Morris Research Institute is prepared to make a significant commitment, he said carefully. But we prefer to work quietly. No publicity, no naming rights, no press releases. Dr. Yates stared at him. Are you serious? Completely serious. We believe the best philanthropy happens in silence. Dr. Morris, if you're really willing to fund this work, you could save thousands of lives. That's the plan. They spent the next 3 hours touring the facility. Elon saw where Justine would receive her treatment, met the nurses who would care for her, and reviewed the protocol that might save her life. What struck him most was how hopeful everyone seemed. Despite working with the sickest patients in the world, doctors and nurses smiled and laughed. They believed in what they were doing. There's something else, Dr. Yates said as they finished the tour. We have a new patient starting treatment in 2 days. Justine Wilson. She's a writer. Quite well known, actually. Her case is particularly challenging because the cancer was diagnosed late. Elon's heart jumped, but he kept his face neutral. Yes, her treatment is being funded by your institute. She seems like a remarkable woman, very intelligent, very determined to fight this. I'd like to follow her case closely, Elon said. For research purposes, of course. Of course. That evening, Elon called his sons from his hotel room. Griffin answered the video call from his dorm room at Stanford University. Behind him, Elon could see engineering textbooks scattered on his desk. Dad, you look weird. Are you wearing glasses? Just trying a new look, Elon said quickly. How are you doing? I'm okay. But Dad, I'm worried about Mom. Elon's chest tightened. What do you mean? I called her yesterday and she sounded scared. She said she was going to Houston for some medical treatment, but she wouldn't tell me what kind. Is Mom sick? Elon had to choose his words carefully. His sons didn't know about their mother's cancer diagnosis yet. Justine wanted to protect them until she knew more about her prognosis. Your mother is dealing with some health issues, Elon said, but she's getting the best possible care. At MD Anderson? That's a cancer hospital, Dad. Griffin was too smart for his own good sometimes. He got that from both his parents. Just trust me, okay? Your mother is going to be fine. Are you helping her? I know you guys don't talk much, but if Mom is really sick, I'm doing everything I can, Elon said. But you know your mother. She's independent. She wants to handle this her own way. After the call ended, Elon sat in his hotel room, thinking about his children. Griffin and Xavier were 19 now, old enough to understand what cancer meant. The triplets, Kai, Saxon, and Damien, were 17, still in high school but not little kids anymore. They all loved their mother. She was the parent who read them bedtime stories, helped with homework, and hampered their birthdays. Elon was the parent who took them to rocket launches and taught them about technology. If they lost Justine, Elon wouldn't know how to fill that gap. He could teach them engineering and business, but he couldn't teach them about emotions and relationships the way she could. His phone rang. It was Dr. Mitchell calling from New York. I'm landing in Houston tomorrow morning, Jim said. I've reviewed all of Justine's medical records. Elon, this is going to be the fight of her life. What are her real chances? With conventional treatment? Maybe 10%. With this experimental therapy and the best care money can buy? Maybe 30%. Those aren't great odds. They're better than 0%. True. But Elon, there's something else you need to know. Even if the treatment works, the process is brutal. She's going to be incredibly sick for weeks. She'll need support, people who care about her. She'll have the best medical team in the world. That's not what I mean. She'll need family. She'll need love. Can you give her that while pretending to be Dr. Morris? Elon stared out at the Houston skyline. Somewhere out there, Justine was probably packing her bags, preparing to fight for her life. She thought she was doing it alone. I'll find a way, he said. Justine Wilson arrived at MD Anderson Cancer Center on a sunny Monday morning in October. Her sister Emma drove her from the airport in a rented car. They sat in the passenger pickup area for a moment, both staring at the massive building. It looks like a small city, Emma said softly. It kind of is, Justine replied. 21 hospitals. I looked it up online. Justine felt smaller and more fragile than she had in years. The cancer had already stolen 15 pounds from her body. Her clothes hung loose, and her face looked pale despite the makeup she'd carefully applied that morning. But her spirit was still strong. She'd spent the 3-hour flight from Los Angeles, reading everything she could find about CAR T-cell therapy. If she was going to fight this disease, she wanted to understand the weapons. What she didn't know was that Elon Musk had been at MD Anderson for 3 days, preparing for her arrival. He'd made sure she got the best room in the hospital, a private suite on the 8th floor with a view of Herman Park. He'd arranged for the top nurses to be assigned to her case. He'd even had the room painted in soft blue colors, because he remembered that blue was her favorite. Dr. Morris has been very thorough, Dr. Yates told her nursing team that morning. He wants daily reports on the patient's progress, comfort, and emotional state. This Morris guy really cares about research, said Patricia Williams, the head nurse. Patricia had worked at MD Anderson for 15 years. She'd never seen anyone pay this much attention to a single case. He seems very invested in this particular patient, Dr. Yates agreed. Make sure she gets everything she needs. When Justine checked in at the front desk, everything went smoothly. Too smoothly. The paperwork was already completed. Her insurance had been pre-approved for experimental treatment. A volunteer escort was waiting to take her bags. This is weird, Emma whispered as they followed the escort to the elevators. Usually hospitals make you wait for hours and fill out a million forms. Maybe cancer hospitals are different. Justine said, but she was thinking the same thing. Her room was beautiful. Large windows let in natural light. The walls were painted a calming shade of blue. Fresh flowers sat on the bedside table. White roses and blue hydrangeas. Who sent the flowers? Justine asked the nurse who was checking her in. I'm not sure, Patricia said. They were here when I came on shift this morning. There's no card. Justine touched one of the white roses. It reminded her of her wedding bouquet, 23 years ago. She and Elon had gotten married in a small ceremony in Napa Valley. She'd carried white roses and blue hydrangeas. It was probably just a coincidence. Dr. Yates arrived an hour later to explain the treatment process. She was followed by a tall man in glasses and a white coat. This is Dr. Morris from the research institute that's funding your care, Dr. Yates said. He'll be observing your treatment for research purposes. Justine looked at Dr. Morris carefully. Something about him seemed familiar, but she couldn't place what it was. He was tall like Elon, but his face looked different. The glasses and mustache changed his appearance completely. It's a pleasure to meet you, Miss Wilson, Dr. Morris said in a voice that was slightly deeper than usual. I've read your medical files. Your case presents some interesting challenges. Interesting challenges, Justine repeated. That's one way to put it. I prefer to think of them as puzzles to solve, Dr. Morris said. And I'm very good at solving puzzles. There was something in his voice that reminded Justine of someone, but she couldn't figure out who. The treatment began the next day. First, they had to harvest Justine's T-cells through a process called apheresis. She'd lay in a hospital bed for 4 hours while a machine filtered her blood, collecting the immune cells they would later modify. It's like a very boring vampire, Justine joked to Patricia. Taking my blood but giving it back. You have a good attitude, Patricia said. That helps more than you might think. Dr. Morris appeared in the doorway during the second hour of apheresis. He stood quietly, watching the machines work and checking Justine's vital signs on the monitors. How are you feeling? He asked. Like I'm being drained by a very polite robot, Justine said. But not too bad overall. Good. The process can be tiring for some patients. Dr. Morris, can I ask you something? He tensed slightly. Of course. Why is your research institute so interested in my case specifically? I'm just one person. Dr. Morris was quiet for a moment. Sometimes one person's case can teach us things that help thousands of other people. Your particular type of cancer, your age, your overall health, it all creates a unique situation that we can learn from. It was a good answer, but Justine still felt like he wasn't telling her everything. That night, Emma sat beside Justine's hospital bed reading a romance novel out loud. It was something they'd done when they were kids. Emma was 2 years older and had always been the better reader. This is ridiculous, Emma said, looking up from the book. The hero just happens to be a billionaire who owns his own island. Who writes this stuff? People who believe in fairy tales, Justine said. There's nothing wrong with that. Do you believe in fairy tales? Justine thought about it. I used to. When I was married to Elon, I thought we were living in one. Brilliant man, builds rockets and electric cars, changes the world, lives happily ever after with his writer wife. What happened to the fairy tale? Real life. Fairy tales don't have scenes where the prince works 18-hour days and forgets his family exists. They don't have divorce lawyers and custody battles. Maybe you just hadn't gotten to the right part of the story yet, Emma said softly. What do you mean? Maybe the fairy tale isn't about the perfect marriage. Maybe it's about what happens after everything falls apart. Maybe it's about second chances. Justine was about to respond when Dr. Morris appeared in the doorway again. He seemed to spend a lot of time checking on her, more than the other doctors. I'm sorry to interrupt, he said. I wanted to let you know that your T cells are responding very well to the modification process. We should be ready to reinfuse them tomorrow. That's good news, Emma said. Very good news, Dr. Morris agreed. He looked directly at Justine. Your cells are some of the most robust we've worked with. You're a fighter. I've had practice, Justine said. After Dr. Morris left, Emma gave her sister a curious look. Is it just me, or does that doctor pay a lot of attention to you? He's doing research. I'm his test subject. She says. That night, Justine couldn't sleep. The hospital was never truly quiet. There were always footsteps in the hallway, beeping machines, the occasional announcement over the intercom. She got up and walked to her window. 8 floors below, she could see the hospital parking garage. A familiar-looking Tesla was parked on the 3rd level. She could see someone sitting in the driver's seat, but it was too dark to make out who it was. Probably just a family member keeping vigil, she thought. Lots of people came to MD Anderson from far away. Some of them slept in their cars to save money on hotels. What she didn't know was that Elon Musk was sitting in that Tesla, looking up at her window, making sure she was safe. The next morning, Justine felt stronger than she had in weeks. The modified T cells were flowing back into her bloodstream through an IV tube. She could almost imagine them as tiny soldiers marching through her body, hunting down cancer cells. How do you feel? Asked Dr. Morris, checking her chart for the 3rd time that morning. Like I have a small army inside me, Justine said. Is it normal for doctors to check on patients this often? Dr. Morris paused. Behind his thick glasses, his eyes looked worried. Your case is particularly important, our research. We want to monitor every detail. Dr. Morris, can I ask you something personal? Of course. Do you have children? The question hit Elon like a punch. He thought about Griffin, Xavier, Kai, Saxon, and Danian. His 5 brilliant boys who were probably sitting in classrooms right now, not knowing their mother was fighting for her life. Yes, he said quietly. I have children. Then you understand why I need to get better. My boys need their mother. They're lucky to have you. I hope so. I wasn't always the best mother when they were younger. I was dealing with a difficult divorce, trying to build my writing career. I missed some important moments. Elon wanted to tell her that she was wrong. She had been a wonderful mother. She was the one who read bedtime stories, helped with homework, and remembered every birthday. She was the parent who taught their sons about kindness and creativity. But Dr. Morris couldn't know those things about Justine's family. I'm sure you did your best, he said instead. My ex-husband used to say that good intentions don't matter if the results are bad. He was probably right about that. Elon's chest tightened. He remembered saying those exact words during one of their fights. He'd been talking about business, but Justine had taken it personally. She always took things personally. Sometimes people say things they don't mean when they're angry. Dr. Morris said carefully. Maybe, but words have power. Once you say something hurtful, you can't take it back. After Dr. Morris left, Justine turned to Emma, who was knitting in the corner chair. There's something weird about that doctor, Justine said. Weird how? He asks personal questions, and he seems to know things about me that aren't in my medical chart. Emma looked up from her knitting. What kind of things? Just the way he talks to me, like he knows me. And did you notice how he answered when I asked about his children? His whole body language changed. Maybe he's just really good at connecting with patients. Or maybe he's not who he says he is. That afternoon, Emma decided to do some investigating. She followed Dr. Morris down the hallway after he finished his rounds. He walked quickly, like a man with somewhere important to be. She watched him enter an elevator and push the button for the next one. When the doors opened on the parking level, she saw Dr. Morris walking toward a black Tesla Model S. Emma hid behind a concrete pillar and watched. Dr. Morris got into the Tesla and immediately pulled off his glasses and fake mustache. Even from a distance, Emma could see his real face. She gasped and almost dropped her purse. But before she could get a clear look, her phone rang loudly. The sound echoed through the parking garage. Dr. Morris looked up sharply, scanning the area. Emma ducked lower behind the pillar and answered her phone in a whisper. "Hello, Aunt Emma? It's Xavier. Is Mom okay? I've been worried about her." Emma's heart was pounding. She pressed herself against the concrete pillar, trying to stay hidden while talking to her nephew. "She's doing well, honey. The treatment is going smoothly. Can I talk to her? She's resting right now, but I'll tell her you called. Aunt Emma, there's something I need to tell you. Dad called me yesterday. He asked about Mom, which is weird because they never talk about each other." Emma's mind was racing. If that was really Elon Musk she'd just seen in the parking garage, then Xavier's phone call made perfect sense. "What did your father ask exactly?" "He wanted to know if I'd talked to Mom lately, if she needed anything. He seemed really worried. It was strange." "Strange how?" "Dad never asks about Mom. Not since the divorce. But yesterday he sounded like he still cared about her." Emma looked around the pillar. The Tesla was gone. "Xavier, I need to go. But don't worry about your mother. She's getting the best possible care." That evening, Justine was having dinner in her room when Emma returned from her walk. "You look like you've seen a ghost," Justine said, putting down her fork. "Maybe I have." Emma sat down heavily in the visitor's chair. "Justine, I need to ask you something. Have you noticed anything strange about your treatment here?" "Strange how?" "The way everything has been so smooth. The way your room was ready before you arrived. The way that Dr. Morris pays so much attention to your case." Justine set down her water glass. "You think something fishy is going on? I think someone is paying for a lot more than just your medical treatment. Someone with serious money and serious connections. The Morris Research Institute is funding everything." Dr. Yates explained that. "But who funds the Morris Research Institute?" "I tried to look them up online today. Their website is basic, almost like it was thrown together quickly. No history, no other patients, no published research." Justine felt a chill run down her spine. "What are you suggesting?" "I'm suggesting that maybe your mysterious benefactor isn't as mysterious as you think." That night, Justine couldn't sleep again. She kept thinking about Emma's words. The Morris Research Institute did seem too good to be true. Who would spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on a stranger's medical care with no strings attached? She got up and walked to her window again. The Tesla was back in the parking garage. This time she could see the license plate clearly. Mars. Justine's hands started shaking. She knew that license plate. She'd seen it 100 times during their marriage. Elon had gotten the personalized plate because he said humans needed to become a multiplanetary species. Her phone was on the bedside table. She picked it up and scrolled through her contacts until she found the number she was looking for. "Griffin? I know it's late, but I need to ask you something." "Mom, are you okay? You sound upset." "I'm fine. But I need you to help me with something. Can you research a company for me? The Morris Research Institute." "Sure. Give me a few hours. And Griffin, don't tell anyone I asked you to do this. Not your father. Not your brothers. Nobody." "Mom, you're scaring me. What's going on?" "Just trust me, okay? I'll explain everything when you find out what I need to know." Justine hung up and looked out the window again. The Tesla was still there, and she could see a figure sitting in the driver's seat. She pressed her face against the glass, trying to get a better look. The person in the car seemed to be looking up at her window. For a moment, she thought she saw him raise his hand in a small wave. But that was impossible. It had to be her imagination. Didn't it? Griffin Musk sat in his Stanford University dorm room at 2 a.m., surrounded by empty energy drink cans and computer screens. His roommate was asleep, but Griffin was wide awake, digging through internet databases and corporate records. He was good at this kind of research. He'd inherited his father's analytical mind and his mother's curiosity about people's stories. Finding information was like solving a puzzle. And Griffin loved puzzles. The Morris Research Institute was strange. Really strange. The organization had been created just 3 months ago in Delaware. Delaware was where lots of companies were incorporated because of the tax laws. But the timing was suspicious. 3 months ago was exactly when his mother had been diagnosed with cancer. Griffin dug deeper. The Morris Research Institute had one major donor listed in the public records, a shell company called Meridian Holdings LLC. He traced Meridian Holdings to another company, then another, then another. It was like following a trail of breadcrumbs through a maze of paperwork. Finally, after 4 hours of searching, Griffin found what he was looking for. At the end of the long chain of companies was a private investment firm called Orbital Ventures. He knew that name. His father used Orbital Ventures for his personal investments. Griffin sat back in his chair and stared at his computer screen. His dad was funding his mom's cancer treatment. But why all the secrecy? Why create a fake research institute? Why not just pay for the treatment directly? Griffin knew his parents' history. They'd had a bitter divorce when he was 11 years old. They barely spoke to each other except about custody arrangements for him and his brothers. His mom had written public articles criticizing his dad's parenting. His dad had moved on to other relationships. But maybe they hadn't moved on as much as everyone thought. Griffin picked up his phone and called his mother. "Griffin? It's 3 in the morning in Texas. Are you okay?" "Mom, I found what you asked for. About the Morris Research Institute." There was a long pause. "What did you find?" "I think I know who your mystery benefactor is, and you're not going to believe it." Meanwhile, at MD Anderson, Justine was having the worst night since her treatment began. Her body was feeding the modified T cells, and her temperature had spiked to 103 degrees. This was a known side effect of the therapy, but that didn't make it less scary. Dr. Yates and her team worked through the night to bring Justine's fever down. They gave her conditions to reduce inflammation and fluids to prevent dehydration. Dr. Morris appeared in the ICU at 3:30 a.m., still wearing his disguise even though he looked like he'd been awakened from sleep. "How is she?" he asked Dr. Yates quietly. "Stable, but this is the critical period. Her immune system is essentially at war with itself right now. The modified T cells are working, but they're causing significant inflammation." Elon stared at the monitors showing Justine's vital signs. Her heart rate was too fast. Her blood pressure was too low. She looked small and fragile in the hospital bed, surrounded by machines and tubes. "What can we do?" he asked. "We wait, and we hope her body is strong enough to handle the treatment." "She's strong enough," Elon said with certainty. "She's the strongest person I know." Dr. Yates looked at him curiously. "You seem very invested in this patient's outcome, Dr. Morris." "All patients matter," Elon said quickly. "But some cases are more educational than others." Nurse Patricia Williams was checking Justine's IV when she noticed Dr. Morris standing at the foot of the bed. He'd been there for over an hour, just watching the monitors. "Dr. Morris," she said softly, "you should probably get some rest. We'll call you if there are any changes." "I'm fine here," he said. "Sir, with respect, you look exhausted. When was the last time you slept?" Elon couldn't remember. He'd been at the hospital for 6 days straight, sleeping in his car and showering in the doctor's lounge. He was running on caffeine and worry. "I'll rest when she's out of danger," he said. Patricia had been a nurse for a long time. She'd seen worried family members, dedicated doctors, concerned researchers. But she'd never seen anyone watch a patient with the intensity that Dr. Morris was showing. "Dr. Morris, can I ask you something personal?" "What?" "Do you know this patient from somewhere else? Outside of the hospital?" Elon's heart stopped. "What makes you ask that?" "The way you look at her. The way you talk about her. It's not like a researcher studying a case, it's like someone who cares about her personally." "I care about all my patients," Elon said. "I'm sure you do. But this is different." Before Elon could respond, Justine stirred in her bed. Her eyes opened slowly, and she looked around the ICU with confusion. "Where am I?" she whispered. "You're in the intensive care unit," Patricia said gently. "You had a fever, but it's coming down now." Justine's eyes found Dr. Morris, standing at the foot of her bed. Even through her medication-induced fog, She noticed how worried he looked. "Dr. Morris? What time is it?" "Almost dawn," he said. "How are you feeling?" "Like I got hit by a truck. But alive. That's what matters." Justine studied his face. Something about the way he said those words reminded her of someone. The tone, the rhythm of his speech. It was familiar in a way that made her chest tight. "Dr. Morris, have we met before? Outside of the hospital?" Elon's blood turned to ice. "I don't think so." "Why?" "You just seem familiar. The way you talk, the way you move. It reminds me of someone. I have one of those faces," Elon said, trying to sound casual. But Justine was still staring at him, and he could see the wheels turning in her mind. She was too smart. She'd always been too smart. "Dr. Morris, what's your first name?" "Edward," he said quickly. "Edward Morris. E.M." Justine's voice was getting stronger. "That's interesting." "Why?" "Nothing. Just interesting initials." Dr. Yates entered the ICU with good news. "Justine, your fever has broken completely. Your white blood cell count is rising, and the modified T cells are showing excellent activity against the cancer markers." "That's good news?" Justine asked. "That's great news. It means the treatment is working." As Dr. Yates explained the next steps in Justine's recovery, Elon quietly slipped out of the ICU. His hands were shaking as he walked down the hallway. She was getting suspicious. Too suspicious. And Griffin was researching the Morris Research Institute. His phone buzzed with a text message from his son. "Dad, we need to talk. I know what you're doing." Elon leaned against the hospital wall and closed his eyes. His carefully planned secret was falling apart. But Justine was going to live. The treatment was working. That was all that mattered, even if it meant she would hate him when she learned the truth. Elon found a quiet corner of the hospital parking garage and called Griffin back. His hands were still shaking from the close call in the ICU. "Dad, we need to talk," Griffin said, as soon as he answered. "I know about the Morris Research Institute. I know you're paying for Mom's treatment." Elon closed his eyes and leaned against the concrete wall. "How did you figure it out? I'm your son. I inherited your brain, remember? The paper trail wasn't that hard to follow once I knew what to look for." "Griffin, you can't tell your mother." "Not yet." "Why not?" "Dad, she's gonna find out anyway. She's already suspicious about Dr. Morris." "What do you mean?" "She called me at 2 a.m. asking me to research the Morris Research Institute. She knows something isn't right." Elon felt his carefully built world starting to crumble. "What did you tell her?" "Nothing yet." "But Dad, this is crazy. Why all the secrecy? Why not just help her directly?" "Because she wouldn't have accepted help from me."
You know your mother.
"She's proud. She's independent. If she knew I was paying for her treatment, she would have refused it." Griffin was quiet for a moment. "Even if it meant dying? Even then, she would rather die than feel like she owed me something." "That's stupid." "That's your mother." "Dad, I think you're wrong about her. I think she'd be grateful." "Maybe. But I couldn't take that risk. Her life was more important than my pride or her pride or our complicated history." Meanwhile, back in her hospital room, Justine was getting stronger by the hour. The fever had broken completely, and her appetite was returning. Emma sat beside her bed reading the morning news on her tablet. "Listen to this," Emma said. "Tesla stock went up 12% yesterday. Some financial analyst thinks Elon is about to announce a major breakthrough in medical technology." Justine looked up from her breakfast tray. "Medical technology? Since when is Elon interested in medical technology?" "Since Neuralink, I guess. Brain-computer interfaces, medical implants, that kind of thing." Justine took a sip of orange juice. The citrus taste was sharp and clean, the first thing that had tasted normal in weeks. "Emma, do you think it's possible that someone could fund a whole medical foundation just to help one person? Like a billionaire creating a fake charity to pay for someone's cancer treatment without them knowing?" "Exactly like that." Emma set down her tablet. "Honey, why would someone do that? Because they loved that person but knew the person was too proud to accept help directly. That sounds like something out of a romance novel. Or something Elon would do." Emma stared at her sister. "You think Elon is behind all this?" "I think Dr. Edward Morris has very familiar eyes. And I think the Morris Research Institute appeared exactly when I needed it most. And I think my ex-husband is smart enough to create an elaborate scheme like this. But why would he do it? You guys barely speak to each other. Justine was quiet for a long moment. Maybe because underneath all the anger and hurt feelings, we still love each other. We're just too stubborn to admit it. That afternoon, Justine decided to test her theory. She asked Patricia if she could take a walk around the hospital. "I need to stretch my legs," she said. "And I'm curious about the layout of this place." What she really wanted to do was find Dr. Morris when he wasn't expecting her. She walked slowly through the corridors, checking different floors and departments. The hospital was enormous, with multiple buildings connected by covered walkways. She passed the cafeteria, the gift shop, the chapel, and several consultation rooms. Then she saw him. Dr. Morris was standing near the elevator bank on the 3rd floor, talking intensely with Dr. Yates. Justine ducked behind a corner and listened to their conversation. "The patient's response has exceeded all our expectations," Dr. Yates was saying. "The tumors have shrunk by 60% in just 3 weeks. It's remarkable. What are her chances now?" Dr. Morris asked. Justine could hear the emotion in his voice, barely controlled. It was the same tone Elon used when he was trying not to cry. The same voice he'd used when their first baby died, when he was trying to be strong for her. "If this continues, very good. We're talking about possible complete remission," Dr. Yates replied. "Complete remission? Yes. She may beat this completely." Justine pressed her hand to her mouth to keep from making a sound. She was going to live. The treatment was working better than anyone had hoped. But more importantly, she now knew without a doubt who Dr. Morris really was. The way he asked about her chances, the relief in his voice when Dr. Yates gave him good news, the way his shoulders relaxed when he heard she might survive. Only one person would react that way to news about her health. Justine almost stepped out from behind the corner to confront him. She wanted to march over and pull off those ridiculous glasses and demand to know what he thought he was doing. But something stopped her. Maybe it was the realization that confronting him would end his ability to help her anonymously. Maybe it was understanding that he'd gone to extraordinary lengths to save her life while protecting her pride. Or maybe it was the memory of why she'd fallen in love with him in the first place. Elon saw problems and fixed them. He saw people in need and helped them, even when it was complicated, even when it was thankless, even when it meant deceiving the person he was trying to save. Instead of confronting him, Justine quietly retreated to her room. She sat at the small desk by the window and pulled out a piece of hospital stationery. Then she began write. "Dear Elon," she started, "I know you're here. I know about Dr. Morris, about the fake glasses, about the Morris Research Institute. I know about everything you've done." She paused and looked out the window at the Houston skyline. Somewhere in this medical complex, her ex-husband was pretending to be someone else so he could save her life. "I should be furious with you," she continued writing. "But instead, I find myself remembering why I fell in love with you 25 years ago." When she finished the letter, she sealed it in an envelope and gave it to Patricia. "There's a man who visits this floor regularly," she told the nurse. "Tall, wears glasses, calls himself Dr. Morris. Please make sure he gets this." "Of course, honey. But can I ask you something?" "What? Do you know Dr. Morris from somewhere else?" Justine smiled sadly. "You could say that. We have a complicated history." Patricia delivered the letter to Dr. Morris an hour later. She found him in a consultation room reviewing Justine's latest test results with Dr. Yates. The numbers on the computer screen showed everything they'd hoped for. Tumor markers dropping, immune system responding perfectly, vital signs strong. "Dr. Morris?" Patricia knocked softly on the door. "I have something for you from the patient." Elon looked up from the medical charts. "From Ms. Wilson?" "Yes, sir. She asked me to make sure you got this personally." Elon took the envelope with hands that weren't quite steady. His name wasn't written on the outside, just Dr. Morris in Justine's familiar handwriting. He'd seen that handwriting on birthday cards, school permission slips, and divorce papers. "Thank you," he said quietly. After Patricia left, Dr. Yates noticed how pale Dr. Morris had become. "Are you feeling all right?" she asked. "Fine, just tired." Elon slipped the letter into his coat pocket. "I need to make some phone calls. Can you handle things here for an hour?" "Of course." Elon walked quickly to the parking garage and got into his Tesla. Only then did he open the letter with shaking fingers. Elon, it began, I know you're here. I know about the Morris Research Institute, about Dr. Morris with the fake glasses, about everything you've done. I should be furious with you for the deception, for making decisions about my life without my knowledge. But instead, I find myself remembering why I fell in love with you in the first place. You see problems and you fix them. You see someone in need and you help, even when it's complicated, even when it's thankless. You've given me the gift of hope and a chance at life, and you've done it in a way that preserves my dignity. You know me well enough to understand that I would have refused direct help from you. So you found another way. I'm not ready to see you face to face yet. Too much has happened between us, and I need to focus on getting well. But I want you to know that this act of love, and yes, I'm calling it love because that's what it is, means everything to me. Thank you for not giving up on me, even when I gave up on us. Always. Just, for the first time since Dr. Chen's phone call 2 weeks ago, Elon cried. Not the public tears of a CEO facing criticism, but the private tears of a man who realized he still loved the mother of his children more than he'd ever admitted to himself. He sat in his car for 20 minutes, reading the letter over and over. She knew. She'd dig it out, just like he'd feared. But instead of anger, she'd responded with understanding. Instead of humiliation, she'd seen love. His phone rang. It was Dr. Mitchell calling from New York. Elon, I just got the latest reports from Dr. Yates. The treatment is working beyond our wildest expectations. Justine is going to make a full recovery. I know, Elon said, his voice still thick with emotion. You sound terrible. What's wrong? She knows, Jim. Justine figured out who I am. How did she react? Better than I deserved. What are you going to do now? Elon looked up at the hospital building, where Justine was recovering 8 floors above him. What she asked. I'm going to step back and let her focus on getting well. But I'm not leaving Houston until I know she's completely okay. And then what? I don't know. Maybe we'll talk. Maybe we'll try to be friends again. Maybe nothing will change, except that she'll know I still care about her. Elon, can I give you some advice? Sure. Don't waste this second chance. You spent 15 years regretting how things ended between you two. Don't spend the next 15 years regretting what you didn't say when you had the opportunity. That evening, Justine was feeling well enough to have dinner with Emma in the hospital cafeteria. It was her first time leaving her room since the treatment began, and she felt like celebrating. You look better, Emma said, cutting into her chicken, not just physically, but emotionally too. I feel better. Like a weight has been lifted off my shoulders. What kind of weight? Justine thought about how to explain it. For years, I've been angry at Elon. Angry about the divorce. Angry about feeling invisible during our marriage. Angry about the way things ended. But watching him these past few weeks, watching him, Dr. Morris, watching the lengths he went to in order to help me without asking for credit or thanks, it reminded me of who he really is underneath all the success and publicity. And who is that? Someone who loves deeply but doesn't know how to show it in simple ways. Someone who would rather move mountains than have an honest conversation about feelings. Emma smiled. That sounds like the Elon I remember from your wedding. He was so nervous during the ceremony that he forgot his own vows and had to make up new ones on the spot. I'd forgotten about that. Justine laughed. He promised to love me until the stars burn out and the universe grows cold. Very romantic for an engineer. He always was better at showing love through actions than words. They ate in comfortable silence for a while, watching other families navigate their own medical journeys. Cancer didn't care about age or wealth or fame. Everyone here was fighting the same basic battle for life and hope. Justine, can I ask you something? Emma said finally. Of course. Do you still love him? Justine set down her fork and considered the question honestly. I love the man who spent 2 weeks pretending to be Dr. Morris so he could save my life without making me feel like charity. I love the father who calls our sons every day to check on them. I love the person who remembers that blue is my favorite color and that I carried white roses at our wedding. But I don't know if I can trust him not to hurt me again. Success changed him, Emma. Or maybe it just revealed parts of his personality that were always there. The obsession with work, the need to control everything, the way he sometimes treats people like problems to be solved rather than individuals to be loved. People can change, you know. Can they? Or do they just learn to hide their flaws better? I guess you'll have to decide if you want to find out. That night, Justine couldn't sleep again. But this time it wasn't because of fear or pain. It was because her mind was racing with possibilities. She got up and walked to her window. The Tesla was gone from the parking garage. For the first time in 2 weeks, Elon wasn't keeping his nightly vigil. She felt a strange mix of relief and disappointment. Relief because she could focus on recovery without wondering if he was watching. Disappointment because his absence felt like abandonment, even though she'd asked for space. Her phone buzzed with a text message from Griffin. "Mom, Dad told me you know about everything. How are you feeling?" She typed back, confused, grateful, scared, hopeful, all at the same time. "That sounds about right. Dad's been miserable for years. You know, he never got over losing you. He remarried. Twice. That doesn't mean he got over you. It just means he tried to." Justine stared at her son's words. Griffin was wise beyond his years, probably because he'd grown up navigating his parents' complicated relationship. "What do you think I should do?" she typed. "Talk to him, not as Dr. Morris, but as Dad. As the man who loved you enough to create an entire fake identity just to save your life. It's not that simple, Griffin." "Maybe it is. Maybe you're both making it more complicated than it needs to be." After their text conversation ended, Justine lay in her hospital bed thinking about the past and the future. Tomorrow, Dr. Yates would run more tests to confirm her progress. If everything looked good, she might be able to go home to Los Angeles in a week. But did she want to go home? Or did she want to stay in Texas and have the conversation that was 15 years overdue? She thought about Elon sitting in his Tesla night after night, watching her window to make sure she was safe. She thought about the careful way he'd orchestrated her care, making sure she got the best treatment while protecting her pride. Most of all, she thought about the man who'd promised to love her until the stars burned out, who'd apparently kept that promise even through divorce and remarriage and years of silence. Maybe Griffin was right. Maybe it was time to stop making things complicated and start making them honest. At 3:17 a.m. on Thursday morning, everything went wrong. Justine woke up feeling like her body was on fire. Her temperature had spiked to 106 degrees, and her blood pressure was dropping fast. The modified T cells that had been fighting her cancer so successfully were now attacking healthy tissue too. It was called cytokine storm, a known but dangerous side effect of CAR T therapy. Justine's immune system had gone into overdrive. Alarms started blaring in room 8047. Patricia rushed in with the emergency team, followed by Dr. Yates and 2 other specialists. "We need to get her to ICU immediately," Dr. Yates shouted over the noise of machines. "Call Dr. Rodriguez. We may need plasmapheresis to filter her blood." Justine was barely conscious as they wheeled her down the hallway. Through the fog of fever and medication, she could hear people talking in urgent voices. "BP is dropping. Temperature holding at. Get those steroids ready." In the parking garage 4 floors below, Elon was sleeping in the back seat of his Tesla when his phone rang. It was Dr. Yates. "Dr. Morris, you need to get here now. Miss Wilson is in cytokine storm. We're moving her to intensive care." Elon was out of the car and running toward the hospital before Dr. Yates finished talking. He took the stairs 3 at a time, not bothering with the elevator. When he reached the ICU, he saw Justine surrounded by machines and medical equipment. She looked so small and fragile, fighting for every breath. "Sir, you can't be in here." A nurse tried to stop him. "She's my..." Elon paused. What was she? His ex-wife? The mother of his children? The woman he'd never stopped loving? "She's my family." Dr. Yates recognized him immediately. "Mr. Musk? You're Dr. Morris?" "Yes," he said, no longer caring about keeping his secret. "How is she?" "Critical. Her immune system is attacking everything. The cancer, healthy tissue, vital organs. We're gonna try high-dose steroids and plasmapheresis to filter out the excess immune cells." "What are her chances?" Dr. Yates hesitated. "I need to be honest with you. This is touch and go. The next 72 hours will determine everything." Elon felt his legs go weak. After everything they'd been through, after the treatment working so well, Justine might still die. "What can I do?" he asked. "Pray, and don't leave. She needs people who love her nearby." The next 3 days were the longest of Elon's life. He didn't leave the hospital, barely ate, and survived on coffee and worry. He called his children to update them, trying to sound stronger than he felt. "Dad, is Mom going to be okay?" asked Saxon, the gentlest of the triplets. "She's fighting," Elon told him. "Your mother is the strongest person I know. Should we come to Houston?" "Not yet. Let's see how the next day goes." But privately, Elon was terrified. He'd moved mountains to save Justine's life, only to watch her body turn against itself. Dr. Mitchell flew in from New York to help. Other specialists arrived from around the country. What had started as Elon's secret mission to save Justine became an all-out medical campaign involving the best cancer doctors in the world. "We're doing everything possible," Dr. Mitchell assured him on the second night. "But her body has to do the real fighting." On Friday evening, Justine briefly regained consciousness. The room was dim, lit only by the glow of medical monitors. Through the fog of medications, she saw a familiar figure sitting beside her bed. It was Elon, but not Dr. Morris. He'd abandoned his disguise completely. No fake glasses, no mustache, just her ex-husband looking exhausted and worried. "You look terrible," she whispered, managing a weak smile. "You look beautiful," he replied, taking her hand carefully. "Even with no hair and hooked up to all these machines?" Especially then. It was their first real conversation in years, without pretense or anger between them. "Elon," she said, her voice barely audible. "Thank you for all of this, for not giving up on me." "I could never give up on you, Justine. Never. Even after everything? The divorce, the things I said about you in interviews, especially after everything. I deserved most of what you said about me." She squeezed his hand with what little strength she had. "We both made mistakes. I made bigger ones. I forgot that having a family was more important than changing the world. You can do both. You just forgot how for a while. I'm sorry, Justine, for everything, for working too much, for making you feel invisible, for not fighting harder to save our marriage. I'm sorry too, for giving up on us, for not understanding how much pressure you were under." They sat in silence for a while, holding hands like they used to do when they were young and everything seemed possible. "Elon? Yeah? If I don't make it through this, don't say that. Listen to me. If something happens, I want you to know that these past few weeks, watching you take care of me as Dr. Morris, reminded me of why I fell in love with you. You're a good man. You always were. You're going to make it through this. I won't let you die. Some things are out of your control, even for you. Not this. I refuse to lose you again." Justine smiled and closed her eyes. "I love you too, you stubborn genius." She fell back asleep, but her hand remained in his. On Saturday morning, Dr. Yates brought news that no one expected. Her fever broke completely during the night, she announced to the medical team. More importantly, cytokine storm seems to have actually enhanced the therapeutic effect. The additional immune activity appears to have supercharged the treatment. "What does that mean?" Elon asked. "It means the cancer is gone. Completely gone. Her latest scans show no detectable cancer cells anywhere in her body." The room fell silent. After 2 weeks of experimental treatment, a life-threatening setback, and 3 days of touch-and-go medical crisis, Justine had achieved complete remission. "Are you saying she's cured?" Elon asked quietly. "Cancer medicine doesn't use the word cured lightly," Dr. Yates said. "But yes, she's in complete remission. The storm that nearly killed her may have actually saved her life." Elon sat down heavily in the nearest chair. After everything, the fear, the secrecy, the medical drama, Justine was going to live. "There's more," Dr. Yates continued. "Her case is unprecedented. The way her immune system responded, both to the treatment and to the cytokine storm, could change how we treat pancreatic cancer. We'd like to study her case extensively. Whatever she wants," Elon said. "It's her choice." When Justine woke up later that day, she was surprised to see all 5 of her sons crowded into her ICU room. Griffin and Xavier had driven down from their colleges. The triplets had flown in from Los Angeles with Elon's help. "Hey, Mom," Griffin said, trying not to cry. "How are you feeling?" "Like I got hit by a truck, then run over by a spaceship," Justine said. "But alive. Definitely alive. We were scared. Saxon admitted. Me too, Justine said honestly. But we made it through. All of us, Xavier added. Looking at his father, the boys had figured out what was happening. They'd seen their father without his Dr. Morris disguise, heard the conversations about experimental treatments, and put the pieces together. Dad, Kai said, what you did was pretty amazing. Your mother did the real work, Elon replied. I just paid for things. You did more than that, Damien said quietly. You saved her life. We saved each other, Justine corrected, looking at Elon across the crowded room. As evening approached and visiting hours ended, the boys reluctantly left to get dinner and find hotel rooms. Elon started to leave with them, but Justine called him back. Stay, she said simply. Are you sure? I'm sure. We have 15 years of talking to catch up on. Elon pulled his chair closer to her bed. Outside the ICU windows, Houston sparkled in the twilight. Somewhere in the distance, SpaceX was probably testing rockets. Tesla was building cars. The world was spinning forward into the future. But for now, in this quiet hospital room, time stood still for two people who had found their way back to each other through the most unlikely circumstances. So, Justine said, tell me about Mars. Elon's face lit up when Justine asked about Mars. It was the same expression he'd worn 25 years ago when he first told her about his crazy dream of making humans a multiplanetary species. We're closer than ever, he said, settling into his chair. The new Starship can carry 150 tons to Mars. We've figured out how to make fuel from the Martian atmosphere for the return trip. The first cargo missions could launch in 3 years. And people? Maybe 5 years. Maybe sooner if everything goes perfectly. Justine smiled weakly. Nothing ever goes perfectly with you. But somehow you make it work anyway. That's the plan. Build redundancy into everything. Expect problems. But never give up on the goal. Is that what you did with me? Built redundancy into the plan to save my life? Elon thought about it. I had backup plans for the backup plans. Dr. Mitchell Consulting from New York. Other specialists on standby. The best equipment money could buy. But the most important part wasn't the technology. What was it? Not giving up. Refusing to accept that you were going to die. They talked through the night about Mars, about SpaceX, about the books. Justine wanted to write. For the first time in 15 years, they were partners in conversation again, building ideas together instead of tearing each other down. As dawn broke over Houston, Dr. Yates arrived with more test results. I have remarkable news, she said. The blood work confirms it. No cancer cells detected anywhere in your system. You're officially in complete remission. Justine felt tears running down her cheeks. I'm really gonna live? You're really going to live. For how long? Based on what we're seeing? Decades. The modified T cells have integrated into your immune system. You may be effectively immune to not just pancreatic cancer but potentially other cancers as well. After Dr. Yates left, Elon and Justine sat in amazed silence. I can't believe it's over, Justine said finally. It's not over. It's just beginning. What do you mean? Your case is going to change everything. Dr. Yates wants to study what happened to you, use it to help other patients. You're not just a survivor, Justine. You're proof that we can enhance human immune systems to fight diseases we never thought we could beat. That's a lot of responsibility. You've always been good with responsibility. Over the next few days, as Justine grew stronger, their children visited regularly. The boys were amazed to see their parents talking and laughing together. It had been years since they'd seen their family feel like a family. This is weird, said Kai during one visit. But good weird. Are you guys getting back together? Saxon asked directly. Elon and Justine looked at each other. They hadn't talked about that yet. We're figuring things out, Justine said carefully. What does that mean? Griffin wanted to know. It means we're learning how to be friends again, Elon said. Everything else will depend on whether we can do that successfully. Dad, Xavier said privately when the others weren't listening, why didn't you just tell Mom you were helping her from the beginning? Because sometimes love means doing what's right for someone else, even when it's not what they would choose. Your mother needed to fight this battle feeling strong and independent, not like a charity case. But you could have lost her without ever telling her how you felt. Yes, that was the risk I was willing to take. 3 weeks later, doctors declared Justine ready to be discharged. The question was, where would she go? Her apartment in Los Angeles was waiting. Her publisher wanted to discuss new book projects. Her normal life was there. But sitting in her hospital room on her last day, looking out at the Houston skyline, Justine realized she didn't want her old life back. She wanted something new. "I've been thinking," she told Elon as he helped her pack her few belongings. "About what? About what comes next. For me, I mean, you'll go back to Los Angeles. Back to writing. You'll be great. What if I don't want to go back to Los Angeles?" Elon stopped folding her clothes and looked at her. "What do you want?" "I want to stay involved with the medical research. Dr. Yates wants to study my case, and I want to help other patients understand their options. But I also want to write about all this." "Write about what?" "Your secret mission to save me. The experimental treatment. What it's like to go from dying to becoming living proof that humans can overcome almost anything." That would make a good book. It would make a good book if I had help from someone who understood the technical side. Someone who could explain the science in a way that normal people could understand. Elon sat down on the edge of her hospital bed. "Are you asking me to co-write a book with you?" "I'm asking if you want to be partners again. Not married partners necessarily, but creative partners, working partners. People who build something together instead of tearing each other apart. What would that look like?" "I don't know yet. Maybe I move to Austin part-time. Maybe we start a foundation to help other cancer patients access experimental treatments. Maybe we write that book together. Maybe we just see what happens when two people who used to love each other try to be friends again." Elon was quiet for a long moment. "Justine, I need to tell you something." "What?" "I never stopped loving you. Through the divorce. Through other relationships. Through years of barely speaking. You were always the person I was trying to impress. Trying to make proud. Elon, I'm not asking you to love me back. I'm not asking you to marry me again. I'm just asking if you think two people who've hurt each other badly can find a way to be good for each other instead." Justine reached for his hand. "I'd like to try. Even knowing that I'll probably work too much and forget important things and drive you crazy with my need to fix everything. Even knowing that I'll probably be stubborn and independent and call you out when you're being impossible. Especially then." They were interrupted by a knock on the door. Patricia peeked in. "Miss Wilson? There are some reporters downstairs asking about your treatment. Word has gotten out about your remarkable recovery." Justine and Elon looked at each other. "Are you ready for that?" he asked. "The publicity? The questions? People wanting to know how the richest man in the world secretly saved his ex-wife's life? All of it." Justine thought about it. "Only if we tell the story our way. Together." "Together," Elon agreed. An hour later, they walked out of MD Anderson Cancer Center side by side. Cameras flashed and reporters shouted questions. But they ignored all of it. They got into Elon's Tesla and drove toward downtown Houston. "Where are we going?" Justine asked. "Somewhere we can talk without interruption. We have a lot to figure out." "Like what?" "Like whether you really want to move to Austin. Like what kind of foundation we want to start. Like how to co-write a book when we've barely been able to have a conversation for 15 years. And whether two people who've been to hell and back together can build something better than what they had before." As they drove through the Houston traffic, Justine felt something she hadn't felt in years. Hope for the future. Not just hope that she would live, but hope that her life would be meaningful. "Elon? Yeah? Tell me about the foundation idea. What if we created something that did what the Morris Research Institute was supposed to do, but for real? Help patients access experimental treatments, connect them with clinical trials, fund research into breakthrough therapies. That would be a full-time job. For both of us. If you're interested." Justine looked out the window at the city rushing past. 6 months ago, she was a moderately successful sophist, living alone in Los Angeles. Now she was a medical miracle with a chance to help save other lives. "I'm interested," she said. "Even if it means working with your impossible ex-husband. Especially then, someone has to keep you grounded. And someone has to help you dream bigger." They smiled at each other, and for the first time in 15 years, the future felt full of possibilities instead of regrets. 3 days after leaving the hospital, Justine didn't go back to Los Angeles. Instead, She showed up at SpaceX's Starbase facility in Austin, wearing a blue scarf to cover her growing hair and carrying a laptop bag. "Ma'am, you can't just walk in here," said the security guard at the main gate. "This is a restricted facility. I'm Justine Wilson," she said calmly. "I'm here to see Elon Musk. Tell him his co-author is here to discuss their next project." The guard looked confused but made a phone call. Within minutes, Elon himself was at the gate, staring at Justine in amazement. "What are you doing here?" he asked. "I have a proposition for you," she said. "But first, can I see what you've built here? I've never actually toured one of your facilities." For the next 2 hours, Elon showed Justine around Starbase. She saw the massive Starship prototypes that looked like giant silver bullets pointed at the sky. She met engineers who spoke about rocket engines the way other people talked about their children. She watched test firings that shook the ground and lit up the Texas sky. "You know what strikes me about all this?" she said as they stood watching a static fire test of the Raptor engines. "What? It's beautiful. Not just the engineering, the vision behind it. You're literally reaching for the stars." "We are," Elon said. "Humanity needs to become a multi-planetary species if we want to survive long-term." "I understand that now," Justine said. "I used to think your work was just about ego, about being the smartest person in the room. But it's not. Is it? It's about hope. Hope for what? Hope that we can solve any problem if we're willing to work hard enough and think big enough." They walked to a quiet area overlooking Boca Chica Bay. The sunset painted the sky orange and pink. For a moment, they could be that young couple from Queen's University again, talking about impossible dreams. "Elon," Justine said, "I want to make you an offer. But first, I need to know something. Why did you really do it? Why did you save me?" He was quiet for a long time, watching the waves. "Because losing you once was the worst thing that ever happened to me. Losing you forever would have been unbearable. Even after everything. The divorce, the public comments I made, the years of barely speaking, especially after all that. Because I realized that all the success, all the companies, all the achievements, none of it means anything if I can't share it with the people I love. And I love you, Justine. I never stop." She took his hand. "I love you too. But I'm not the same person who married you in 2000. And you're not the same man I divorced in 2000. No, we're not. So here's my proposition. I want to write your biography. The real story. Not the sanitized PR version. I want to spend time with you. Understand who you've become. Document this incredible life you're living." Elon looked surprised. "You want to write my biography?" "I want to write our story. Past, present, and maybe future. But I also want to see if two people who've grown and changed and hurt each other can find a way back to love. What would that look like? It would mean I move to Austin, at least part-time. I bring my writing here, work on the book, help with the foundation we talked about, and we see what happens when we spend time together as the people we are now, not the people we used to be." "Justine, are you asking me to give us another chance?" "I'm asking if you want to fall in love with me again. Not the memory of who I was, but who I am today. And I want to fall in love with who you've become." Elon stared at her. "You know the media will go crazy when this gets out. Let them. But we tell the story our way, on our timeline. No more secrets, no more hiding. What about our sons? They're adults now. They can handle their parents trying to be happy together. Besides, I think they'd like to see their family whole again. And if it doesn't work, if we try and fail again, then at least we'll know we were brave enough to try. But Elon, I think we might surprise ourselves. We're both better people than we were before. You want to write about all of it. The cancer, the secret treatment, the fake identity, especially that. People need to know that love sometimes means doing impossible things for people who matter to you." Elon was quiet for several minutes, thinking. Justine watched his face, seeing the same expression he wore when he was solving complex engineering problems. "I have conditions," he said finally. "Name them." "First, we take this slowly. No rushing into anything. We get to know each other again before we make any big decisions." "Agreed." "Second, your health comes first. Always. If the stress of rebuilding our relationship affects your recovery, we stop." "Agreed." "Third, our children's happiness matters more than ours. If this experiment hurts them, we call it off." "Absolutely agreed." And fourth, Elon said, stepping closer to her, you have to promise me something. What? Promise me that if you change your mind, if you decide this is too hard or too complicated, you'll tell me directly. No disappearing, no shutting down, no going silent for months. I promise. But you have to promise me something too. Anything. Promise me you won't try to fix me or change me or solve me like I'm one of your engineering problems. I'm not broken, Elon. I'm just human. I promise. They stood together in the fading Texas light, two people who'd been to hell and back, both separately and together. The story that began with a devastating phone call was transforming into something neither of them had expected. A second chance. So, Justine said, when do we start this biography? How about now? Elon pulled out his phone. Tesla's board meeting is tomorrow. You could sit in. Start observing the real Elon Musk in action. Will I be bored? Probably. But you'll also see me argue with engineers about battery chemistry and fight with lawyers about government regulations. Very glamorous stuff. Justine laughed. Really laughed for the first time in months. You know what? That actually sounds fascinating. Why? Because it's you being you, without any pretense. That's what I fell in love with originally. Your passion for solving impossible problems. As they walked back toward the main facility, Elon's phone buzzed with the usual stream of messages. Engineers wanting approvals, executives needing decisions, reporters trying to track down rumors about his mysterious time in Houston. But for once, he didn't immediately check his phone. Instead, he took Justine's hand. There's something else, he said. Something I need to tell you about why I was so desperate to save you. Justine stopped walking. What? When Dr. Chen called me about your diagnosis, my first thought wasn't about the money or the logistics, or even the medical challenges. My first thought was I can't let our sons lose their mother the way I lost mine. Justine knew about Elon's complicated childhood, the emotional distance in his family. I realized, Elon continued, that you're not just their mother. You're the parent who taught them empathy, creativity, how to think about things beyond engineering problems. You're the one who reads them stories and helps them understand emotions. If they lost you, I couldn't replace that. I wouldn't even know how to try. Elon, so yes, I saved you because I love you, but I also saved you because our family needs you. Not just me, all of us. Justine felt tears in her eyes. That might be the most romantic thing you've ever said to me. Really, even though it was completely practical, especially because it was practical. You saved me, not just for yourself, but for our children. That's love in action. As they reached the main building, Justine looked up at the rockets and launch towers around them. This is Elon's world now, bigger and more ambitious than anything they'd dreamed of when they were young. But somehow, standing there in the shadow of machines designed to carry humans to other planets, the future felt intimate and personal again. Ready for this adventure? Elon asked. Ready, Justine said. The next morning, Justine woke up in the guest room of Elon's Austin home. It was a dotist house by billionaire standards. 3 bedrooms, a simple kitchen, and walls covered with photos of rockets and their children. She found Elon in the kitchen making coffee, still wearing yesterday's SpaceX t-shirt. He looked up when she entered, suddenly shocked. How did you sleep? He asked. Better than I have in months. Your guest bed is more comfortable than my hospital bed. Low bar to clear, he said, handing her a mug. French press, the way you used to like it. You remembered. I remember everything about you, Justine. That was never the problem. They sat at his kitchen table and for a moment it felt normal. Like they were still married, sharing morning coffee and planning their day. The Tesla board meeting is at 10, Elon said. Are you sure you want to sit in? It's going to be 3 hours of technical discussions and financial projections. I'm a writer, I'm used to boring research. Besides, I want to see you in your natural habitat. My natural habitat is usually more chaotic than a board meeting. Then show me that too. An hour later, they arrived at Tesla's Austin factory. The building was enormous. Over 1 million square feet of manufacturing space where robots and humans worked together to build electric cars. This is incredible, Justine said as they walked through the production line. How many cars do you build here? About 2,000 a day when we're running at full capacity. The goal is to get to 5,000 cars every day. We're trying to accelerate the world's transition to sustainable transport. You can't do that making a few cars at a time. Justine watched the assembly line, where Model Y vehicles moved smoothly from station to station. Workers installed batteries, attached wheels, and tested systems with precise efficiency. It's like watching a mechanical ballet, she said. That's actually not a bad description. Every movement has to be perfectly timed, or the whole system breaks down. The board meeting was held in a glass conference room, overlooking the factory floor. Justine sat quietly in the corner, taking notes while Elon discussed production targets, supply chain issues, and expansion plans. She was struck by how different he was in this environment. Gone was the sometimes awkward public speaker who made headline with controversial tweets. This Elon was focused, decisive, and clearly in command of every detail. The Berlin factory is ahead of schedule, reported one executive. We should be at full production by next quarter. Good. What about the Shanghai facility? Elon asked. Some supply chain delays. But nothing we can't handle. Define nothing we can't handle. I want specifics. Justine found herself impressed by his leadership style. He asked tough questions but listened carefully to answers. He pushed for ambitious goals but was realistic about problems. During a break, one of the board members approached her. You're Justine Wilson, aren't you? The author? Yes. My daughter loves your Blood Angel series. She'll be excited to hear I met you. Thank you. That's always nice to hear. Are you writing something about Tesla? Justine glanced at Elon across the room. I'm working on a book about second chances. After the meeting, Elon showed her around the rest of the facility. They visited the battery lab, where scientists worked on improving energy density and charging speed. They saw the paint shop, where robots applied perfect coats of color to car bodies. This is what you meant about hope, isn't it? Justine said as they stood in the research and development area. What do you mean? All of this. The electric cars, the rockets, the batteries. You're not just building products. You're building a future where humans can thrive. I'm trying to solve problems that matter. Climate change, space exploration, sustainable energy. If we don't figure these things out, our species might not make it. And you really think you can change the world? I think we can change the world. Nobody does this alone. That evening, they had dinner at a small restaurant in downtown Austin. It was the first time they'd been out together socially in 15 years. People are staring. Justine observed, noticing other diners taking photos with their phones. They always stare. You get used to it. Do you miss having privacy? Sometimes. But the attention comes with the territory. If you want to change the world, you have to accept that people will watch everything you do. Is that why you created the Dr. Morris persona? To have a moment of anonymity? Elon nodded. It was nice to be just a doctor helping a patient, instead of Elon Musk trying to save his ex-wife. The story became simpler, but the story was never simple, was it? We have too much history for simple. No, we don't do simple very well. After dinner, they walked along Lady Bird Lake in the center of Austin. The city skyline reflected in the water, and couples jogged past them on the running trail. Elon, can I ask you something? Justine said. Always. When you were Dr. Morris watching me in the hospital, what were you thinking about? Honestly, I was thinking about time. How much time we'd wasted being angry at each other. How much time I'd missed with you and the boys because I was too proud to admit I was wrong. What were you wrong about? Everything. I was wrong to think that success mattered more than family. Wrong to believe that working 18-hour days made me a better father. Wrong to assume you'd always be there waiting for me to figure out what was important. Justine stopped walking. I wasn't innocent either. I gave up on us too easily. I should have fought harder for our marriage instead of just walking away. We were both scared kids trying to figure out how to be adults. We made mistakes. Do you think we're ready to not make those mistakes again? Elon considered the question seriously. I think we're both smarter now, more aware of what matters. But I also think we'll make new mistakes. Different ones. Are you okay with that? I'm okay with making mistakes as long as we're making them together. They found a bench overlooking the water and sat down. Downtown Austin buzzed with activity around them, people walking dogs, street musicians playing guitar, food trucks serving late dinners. This feels strange, Justine said. Strange how? Like we're on a first date, but we also have 25 years of history. Like we're strangers who know everything about each other. Maybe that's what second chances feel like. Familiar, but new at the same time. Justine's phone buzzed with a text message. It was from Griffin. "Mom, I saw the photos online of you and Dad at dinner. How did it go?" She showed Elon the message. "Our children are watching our every move. They want us to be happy. All 5 of them have told me that at various times." "What did you tell them?" "That their mother and I are trying to figure out how to be friends again. And maybe more than friends if we're both brave enough." "Are you brave enough?" "I'm brave enough to try." "Are you?" Instead of answering with words, Justine leaned over and kissed him. It was soft and tentative, like a question. Elon kissed her back, and for a moment they were 22 and 20 again, sitting by a different lake in a different life, believing that love could conquer anything. When they broke apart, both were crying. "I missed you," Justine whispered. "I missed you too. Every day for 15 years. Even when you were married to other people. Especially then. I kept trying to find you in other relationships. But nobody else was you." They sat holding hands as the Austin skyline sparkled around them. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. The book to write, the foundation to build, the media attention to navigate. But tonight they were just 2 people who had found their way back to each other. "Elon? Yeah? I want to tell you the real reason I accepted help from the Morris Research Institute. I thought it was because you needed the treatment. It was more than that. When Dr. Yates called me, something in the way she talked about the Institute reminded me of you. The attention to detail, the refusal to accept no as an answer, the way every problem had a solution if you just worked hard enough to find it. You suspected it was me from the beginning? I hoped it was you. Because it meant that despite everything that had gone wrong between us, you still understood me. You knew I needed to feel strong and independent, even while accepting help. Why didn't you say anything? Because I realized that you understanding me that well meant you still loved me, and I wasn't ready to deal with what that meant. And now I think I'm ready to love you back." As they walked home through the quiet Austin streets, Elon felt something he hadn't experienced in years: complete happiness. Not the satisfaction of a successful rocket launch, or the excitement of a new technical breakthrough, but the simple joy of being with the person who mattered most. "Justine? Yeah? Thank you." "For what?" "For giving us another chance. For being brave enough to try again. Thank you for saving my life. And not just from cancer."
What do you mean?
"You saved me from spending the rest of my life wondering what might have been if we'd been brave enough to try again." The call came 3 days later, just as Justine and Elon were settling into their new routine. They'd spent the morning working side by side in his home office. Justine writing the first chapter of their book while Elon reviewed SpaceX launch schedules. Dr. Yates was calling from MD Anderson with news about Justine's latest blood work. "Justine, I have some unusual findings," Dr. Yates said, her voice carefully neutral. "Nothing alarming, but unexpected." Justine put the phone on speaker so Elon could hear. His face immediately went pale. "What kind of findings?" Justine asked, trying to keep her voice steady. "The modified T cells we created for your treatment, they're still active in your system. More active than we've ever seen in any patient." "Is that bad?" Elon asked. "Actually, it appears to be very good. The cells have integrated into Justine's natural immune system. She may be effectively immune to not just pancreatic cancer recurrence, but potentially other cancers as well." Justine felt dizzy. "What does that mean exactly?" "It means you're not just a survivor. Justine, you may be the first person we've successfully given a permanent immune system upgrade. This could change everything about how we treat cancer." After the call ended, Justine and Elon sat in stunned silence. "Do you realize what this means?" Elon said finally. "That I'm some kind of medical experiment? That you're proof we can enhance human biology to fight diseases? You're not just alive. Justine, you're evolved." The news brought unexpected challenges. Within hours, Dr. Yates was getting calls from researchers around the world. News of Justine's enhanced immune system leaked to medical journals, then to mainstream media. By evening, their phones were ringing constantly. "Ms. Wilson, this is CNN. We'd like to interview you about your remarkable recovery." Mr. Musk, Forbes wants to discuss the implications of your wife's treatment for biotechnology investing. She's not my wife, Elon kept correcting people. She's my partner. What's the difference? Asked one persistent reporter. Marriage is a legal contract. Justine answered when Elon handed her the phone. Partnership is a choice you make every day. 3 weeks later, they decided to tell their story publicly. Anderson Cooper agreed to interview them for 60 minutes, promising a serious, in-depth look at their experience. The night before the interview, Justine couldn't sleep. She found Elon on his back deck, staring at the stars. Nervous? She asked, sitting beside him. Terrified. Once we do this interview, everything changes. Our private story becomes public property. Do you want to call it off? No. People need to hear this. Other families dealing with cancer need to know that impossible things are possible. What if they focus on the wrong parts? What if it becomes just another celebrity reunion story instead of a story about hope? Then we'll correct them. As many times as it takes. The interview took place in Elon's living room, with photos of their children visible in the background. Anderson Cooper was gentle but thorough, asking about everything from the fake identity to the experimental treatment to their decision to try again. Justine, Cooper said, you've said you suspected from early on that your mysterious benefactor might be Elon. If that's true, why did you accept the help? Because I was dying and I wasn't ready to leave my children. But there's more to it than that. She looked at Elon. When the Morris Research Institute reached out, their approach was different from other offers I'd received. They didn't want publicity or credit. They just wanted to help. That level of selfless support reminded me of the man I fell in love with. You had other offers? Cooper asked. A pharmaceutical company wanted to pay for my treatment in exchange for exclusive rights to my story and medical data. They wanted to turn me into a spokesperson for their drugs. The Morris Institute asked for nothing. Cooper turned to Elon. You spent millions of dollars and weeks of your time on an elaborate deception. Why not just call Justine directly? Because she wouldn't have accepted direct help from me. Justine is proud and independent. She needed to fight this battle feeling strong. Not like a charity case. But you risked her discovering your involvement and being angry about the deception. Yes, but I'd rather have her alive and angry than dead and dignified. Are you back together romantically? Justine and Elon exchanged glances. We're figuring it out, Justine said. We're two different people than we were when we got married, and two different people than we were when we got divorced. We're seeing if those new people can build something together. What about the medical breakthrough? Justine, you've essentially become a medical miracle. How does that factor into your future? It means I have work to do. I want to help other patients understand their options, advocate for better access to experimental treatments, and make sure that what happened to me can happen for more people. And I want to help her do that, Elon added. This experience has shown me that some of our most important technological breakthroughs need to be driven by love, not just innovation. After the interview aired, the response was overwhelming. The Morris Research Institute website, which Elon had created as a front, received thousands of emails from cancer patients and their families. We need to make this real, Justine told Elon as they read through the messages. People want hope, and we accidentally gave them a roadmap. It won't be easy. Running a real medical foundation requires expertise we don't have. Then we'll learn. We'll hire the right people, partner with the right hospitals, do whatever it takes to help other families. 2 months later, the Morris Research Institute became a legitimate foundation with Justine and Elon as co-directors. Their mission was simple: help cancer patients access experimental treatments regardless of their ability to pay. Their first case was a teacher from Ohio, whose husband had been diagnosed with the same type of cancer. Justine had survived. The foundation paid for his treatment at MD Anderson using the same protocol that had saved Justine's life. It worked, Dr. Yates called to tell them 6 weeks later. Complete remission. The Wilson protocol is now showing a 67% success rate. The Wilson protocol? Justine asked. That's what we're calling it. The treatment combination that saved your life. Justine hung up and turned to Elon. They named a cancer treatment after me. Your name is going to be associated with saving thousands of lives. Our names. This is our foundation, our work together. Does that scare you? It terrifies me. But it also feels like the most important thing I've ever done. That evening, as they worked together on grant applications and patient requests, Justine realized something had shifted. They weren't just trying to rebuild their relationship anymore. They were building something entirely new, a partnership based on shared purpose rather than shared history. Elon, yeah, I think we're gonna be okay. Better than okay. I think we're gonna change the world. Together? Together. 6 months after the Anderson Cooper interview, Justine and Elon's story had taken on a life of its own. The Morris Research Institute was flooded with applications from cancer patients who couldn't afford experimental treatments. Medical researchers wanted to study Justine's enhanced immune system. Publishers offered millions for book deals. But the most unexpected response came from other billionaires. We've received calls from tech entrepreneurs, oil executives, even Hollywood producers. Justine told Elon as they reviewed foundation applications in their shared office. They want to know how to create their own medical research institutes. People want to replicate what we did? Not the fake identity part. The results part. Anonymous funding for experimental treatments, partnerships with top hospitals, helping patients who can't afford cutting-edge care. Elon looked up from a grant application. That's not necessarily bad. More funding means more patients help. But they're missing the point. This wasn't about charity or tax write-offs. This was about love. 3 days later, they got a call that would change everything again. It was from Dr. Eric Lindquist at the Karolinska Institute in Sweden. Miss Wilson, Mr. Musk, I'm calling to inform you that your case has sparked a revolution in immunotherapy research. The Wilson protocol has now been successfully replicated in 47 patients worldwide with a 73% success rate. Justine nearly dropped the phone. 73%? Yes. And the enhanced immune response you've shown is being studied at research centers in 12 countries. We believe we're on the verge of breakthrough treatments for multiple types of cancer. After the call, Justine sat in stunned silence. My medical case is being studied in 12 countries, she said finally. Your recovery is going to save thousands of lives, Elon corrected. Our recovery? This happened because you refused to let me die. That evening, their sons came for dinner. All 5 boys were home for spring break, and the house felt alive with their energy and laughter. Mom, my biology professor is using your case as an example in his immunology class, Griffin said over dinner. It's weird hearing him talk about your T-cells. Good weird or bad weird? Justine asked. Proud weird. My mom is famous for being a medical miracle. Your mom is famous for being stubborn enough to survive experimental cancer treatment, Saxon corrected. And Dad is famous for being crazy enough to create a fake identity to save her, Kai added. Elon looked around the table at his family, his 5 brilliant sons and the woman who'd given them life twice, once at birth and again by surviving cancer. You know what the best part is, he said. What? Xavier asked. We're all here, together. For the first time in years, our family feels complete. Are you guys gonna get remarried? Damien asked directly. Justine and Elon looked at each other. They'd been living and working together for months, but they hadn't talked about marriage. We're happy the way things are, Justine said carefully. But that's not really an answer, Griffin pointed out. Your mother and I are partners, Elon said. In the foundation, in raising you boys, in life. The paperwork doesn't matter as much as the commitment. But do you love each other? Saxon asked. Yes, Justine said without hesitation. We love each other differently than we did when we were young. But maybe better. Different how? Kai wanted to know. When we were married before, we loved the idea of each other, Elon explained. Young, ambitious people who were going to change the world together. Now we love who we actually are, flaws, mistakes, and all. After the boys left, Justine and Elon walked along the Colorado River that ran through Austin. The spring air was warm, and families were out enjoying the evening. Do you think we should get married again? Justine asked. Do you want to? I want to know that we're committed to this for the long term. Not just the foundation work, but us, our family. We could have a commitment ceremony, something private, just for us and the boys. Or we could just keep doing what we're doing, choosing each other every day. Both, Elon said. Let's do both. 2 weeks later, news broke that would thrust them back into the spotlight. A major pharmaceutical company announced they were developing a commercial version of the Wilson protocol, with plans to charge $800,000 per treatment. $800,000? Justine was outraged. The treatment that saved my life is going to become another way for rich people to buy their way out of cancer? Not if we can help it. Elon said grimly. They called an emergency board meeting of the Morris Research Institute. Dr. Yates joined by video from Houston along with Dr. Mitchell from New York and 3 other leading cancer researchers. The patent situation is complicated, Dr. Mitchell explained. The basic CAR-T technology is already patented by multiple companies. But the specific combination protocol that worked for Justine could be protected. By whom? Justine asked. By you. As the patient whose case led to the breakthrough, you have legal standing to file for certain protections. What would that mean? It would mean you could license the treatment to ensure it remains affordable and accessible. Elon leaned forward. How affordable? With the right partnerships and manufacturing agreements, maybe $50,000 per treatment instead of $800,000. Still too expensive for most families, Justine said. Which is why the foundation exists, Elon reminded her. We help cover the costs that insurance won't. Over the next month, they found themselves in a complex legal and ethical battle. Pharmaceutical companies wanted to profit from Justine's medical breakthrough. Insurance companies wanted to limit coverage. Government agencies wanted to regulate the treatment. Through it all, Justine and Elon worked as true partners. She handled the patient advocacy and media interviews. He managed the business negotiations and financial planning. We make a good team, Justine said one evening after a particularly difficult day of legal meetings. We always did. We just forgot for a while. Do you ever regret it? Saving me? I mean, look at all the complications it's caused. Elon stopped what he was doing and looked at her seriously. Justine, I would do it all again tomorrow. The fake identity, the secret foundation, the media circus, all of it. You're alive. Our family is together, and we're helping other people fight for their lives. What could I possibly regret about that? The loss of privacy? The legal battles? The fact that our personal story became a public medical case study? Small prices to pay for the chance to love you again. That night, as they worked late in their home office, Justine realized something had changed. They weren't just rebuilding their relationship anymore. They weren't even just building a foundation to help cancer patients. They were building a legacy. Elon. Yeah? I've been thinking about the book. What about it? I want to change the ending. How? I don't want it to end with us getting back together. I want it to end with what we're building now. The foundation, the medical breakthroughs, the other families we're helping. You want the love story to become a mission story? I want people to understand that the most important love stories aren't about 2 people finding each other. They're about 2 people using their love to make the world better. Elon smiled. That's a much better ending. You think so? I know so, because it's not really an ending at all. It's a beginning. As they worked together late into the night, reviewing patient applications and research proposals, Justine felt a deep sense of purpose she'd never experienced before. She wasn't just a cancer survivor or a successful author or even Elon's partner. She was a person whose life had meaning beyond herself. How many applications did we approve today? She asked, as they finally prepared to close their laptops. 12. 12 families who will get access to treatments they couldn't afford otherwise. 12 chances for other people to live. 12 chances for other families to stay together. Like ours did. Like ours did. Outside their window, the Austin skyline glittered in the darkness. Somewhere in the distance, rockets were built to carry humans to Mars. Electric cars were rolling off assembly lines to help save the planet. Medical researchers were working to cure diseases that had killed millions. But in their quiet home office, 2 people who had found their way back to each other were doing something even more important. They were turning their second chance at love into first chances for others. 1 year after Justine's cancer diagnosis, she stood on stage at the Global Health Innovation Conference in Geneva, Switzerland. Behind her, a massive screen showed statistics that would have seemed impossible just months before. Wilson protocol success rate: 78% patients treated worldwide, 80-47 lives saved, 65-9 Morris Research Institute partners. In the audience, Elon sat in the front row next to Dr. Yates, Dr. Mitchell, and Teresa Williams, the nurse who had first suspected Dr. Morris wasn't who he claimed to be. Their 5 sons were scattered throughout the auditorium, having flown in from their various colleges to support their mother. 2 years ago, Justine began. I was a moderately successful author living alone in Los Angeles. I had no idea that a phone call about pancreatic cancer would change not just my life but potentially thousands of other lives around the world. She looked directly at Elon. I also had no idea that the man I divorced 15 years ago still loved me enough to move mountains to save my life. The audience was silent, hanging on every word. The story you've heard about the Morris Research Institute and Dr. Edward Morris is true. My ex-husband created an elaborate fake identity to fund my cancer treatment without my knowledge. He spent weeks pretending to be a medical researcher so he could watch over my care. She paused, letting the full weight of that sink in. Some people have asked if I was angry when I discovered the truth. The answer is no. I was amazed, not just by the elaborate lengths he went to, but by what his deception revealed about love itself. Justine clicked to the next slide, which showed a photo of her in her hospital bed, completely bald and connected to multiple machines. Real love isn't just about the good times. It's not just about romantic dinners and anniversary gifts. Real love is about refusing to give up on someone, even when they've given up on themselves. It's about doing the right thing for someone you care about, even when they'll never thank you for it. The next slide showed Elon in his Dr. Morris disguise. Thick glasses, fake mustache, looking nothing like the world's most recognizable tech billionaire. But this story isn't really about my cancer or even about Elon's extraordinary efforts to save me. It's about what happens when personal love becomes a force for change in the world. She clicked again, and the screen filled with photos of patients who had received the Wilson Protocol treatment. Children, elderly people, mothers and fathers from every continent. These are some of the 47 people who have received the treatment that saved my life. Each one represents a family that didn't have to say goodbye too soon. Each one represents hope winning over despair. In the audience, Elon watched his ex-wife, his partner, his co-director, the love of his life, command the room with the same intelligence and passion that had attracted him 30 years ago. But now, her purpose was bigger than either of them had ever imagined. The Morris Research Institute has grown beyond anything we expected. Justine continued, "We now have partnerships with medical centers in 23 countries. We've funded over 200 clinical trials. We've helped more than 3,000 families access experimental treatments they couldn't afford." She paused and looked around the packed auditorium. "But the most important thing we've learned is that medical breakthroughs aren't just about science. They're about love, hope, and the refusal to accept that some problems can't be solved." The next slide showed a graph of cancer survival rates before and after the Wilson Protocol. When I was diagnosed, pancreatic cancer had a 5% 5-year survival rate. Today, for patients who receive this treatment, that number is approaching 80%. That's not just a medical breakthrough, that's a revolution. She clicked to the final slide, which showed a simple equation: love, science, persistence, and miracles. "I want to leave you with one final thought," Justine said. "The man who saved my life could have simply written a check to any cancer charity and felt good about his donation. Instead, he chose to get personally involved. He chose to sacrifice his time, his privacy, and his pride to make sure one person, me, had the best possible chance of survival." She looked directly at Elon again. That level of personal commitment changed everything. Not just for me, but for every patient who has benefited from the Wilson Protocol. Because when someone you love is willing to risk everything to save you, it inspires you to risk everything to save others. The audience erupted in applause. But Justine wasn't finished. Elon Musk is known for building rockets that can land themselves and cars that drive themselves. But his greatest engineering achievement was figuring out how to save a life while preserving the dignity of the person he was saving. He solved the most complex problem of all: how to love someone without making them feel small. As Justine left the stage, she was surrounded by doctors, researchers, and patients who wanted to thank her. But she made her way directly to Elon. "How did I do?" she asked. "You just changed the world again," he said, pulling her into his arms. "We changed the world. Together." That evening at a private dinner for conference participants, Dr. Yates stood up to make an announcement. "I want to share some news with everyone here," she said. The Wilson Protocol has been so successful that the World Health Organization is considering making it the standard treatment for pancreatic cancer worldwide. The room fell silent. If approved, this treatment will be available in every country that participates in WHO programs. What started as one man's desperate attempt to save the woman he loved has become a global standard of care. Elon and Justine looked at each other in amazement. Later that night, they walked along Lake Geneva under the Swiss stars. The conference was over, the speeches had been given, and the world had been changed a little more. Do you ever think about what would have happened if Dr. Chen hadn't called you? Justine asked. Every day. But then I remember that she did call and you did fight, and we did figure out how to love each other again. And thousands of other people are alive because of it. Millions. Eventually, if the WHO approval goes through, they found a bench overlooking the lake and sat down. Across the water, the lights of Geneva sparkled like stars. Elon, I need to tell you something, Justine said. What? I've been thinking about our book, about how to end it, and I think the story ends here. Not with us getting married again, or moving to Mars or any of the dramatic things people might expect. How does it end? It ends with the truth. The complete truth about what love can accomplish when it's channeled into action instead of just emotion. Which is, that love doesn't just save individuals. Love saves the world. One person at a time, one family at a time. One breakthrough at a time. Elon took her hand. That's a good ending, is it? Even though we never remarried? Even though we're not living a traditional happily ever after? Especially because of that. Our story is better than happily ever after. Our story is purposefully ever after. As they sat by the lake, Justine thought about the journey that had brought them here. From that terrifying phone call about cancer, to this moment of global recognition. From Dr. Morris's fake identity, to the Wilson Protocol's real impact. From two broken people trying to figure out if they could love each other again, to two committed partners changing the world together. You know what the best part is? When the world's richest man discovers his ex-wife is dying of cancer, the end of our story. He faces an impossible choice. This is just the end of the beginning. Let pride keep them apart. What comes next? Or more risk everything to save the woman he never stopped loving. More families to keep together. What he does next will shock you and inspire millions around the world. Together. What would you do if someone you once loved was dying? As they walked back to their hotel, your help might be the last thing they'd accept. With messages from SpaceX. For most people, this would be about the next Mars mission timeline. Tesla wanted updates on new battery technology. Hope for the best. Neuralink had breakthrough news about brain implants. When a family doctor immediately checked devastating news instead, he held Justine's hand and thought about the most important engineering project Elon doesn't just write a check, building a love that was strong enough to save not just so extraordinary, so elaborate and so risky that it will either save her life or destroy what little relationship. For showing me that the most important mission isn't getting to Mars. How a bitter divorce became the greatest love story of our time to go with us. How a tech billionaire's desperate gamble you love the medical revolution. There's no such thing as one phone call changed not just whatever lives, but thousands of lives around the world. The lights of Geneva reflected off Lake Geneva like a came on a rainy Tuesday morning in Texas. Tomorrow, the rain hammered against the massive windows of Starbase like tiny bullets. Back to the Elon Musk turning love into assembly hall, watching his engineers work on the newest Starship rocket. Who had learned that the greatest adventures aren't about reaching 400 feet into the air. They're about reaching other people. It looked like something from a science fiction movie. One breakthrough at a time. This rocket would carry humans to Mars someday. The story that began with the desperate phone tiles are ready for testing had become something unprecedented. A love story that saved not just two people. She wore a hard hat and safety glasses. And her voice still goes in the huge building. That was the end of this incredible journey of love, didn't really hear second chances. His mind was elsewhere. From a desperate phone call in Texas fell to a medical revolution that's now saving lives worldwide. He felt this way since waking up in his small apartment near the launch site. Can change everything. His phone buzzed in his pocket. Where are you watching from today? The number on the screen made him freeze. Drop your location in the comments below. Dr. Sarah Chen. I love connecting with viewers from around the globe up in months. If this touched your heart the way it touched mine, Dr. Chen used to be the family doctor when he lived in Los Angeles. Many more inspiring tales. She took care of his 5 sons when they were little. Your support helps us bring you the most fascinating real-life adventures of courage, innovation, and human resilience. Elon answered, stepping away from the noise of welding and drilling. Please share this video with your friends and family. Elon. It's Dr. Chen. That sometimes feels divided. Her voice sounded shaky. These accounts of extraordinary love and determination remind us what's possible when we refuse to give up on each other. Let's spread kindness and awareness together. Thank you for joining me today. And I'll see you in the next video, where we'll explore another remarkable journey that proves ordinary people can do extraordinary things. Keep believing in the impossible.